Welcome to the Dave Palmer Show, the podcast that revives, restores, and awakens your innermost capabilities.
You have the training and the talent to succeed, but do you have the guts to fail?
I love what I do. When you love what you do, you want to be the best at it.
Today is about the power of you. You will change the world.
Find your path to success through the journey of those who have succeeded. And now, your host, Dave Palmer.
Hi, welcome to another edition of the Dave Palmer Show. And last week, our UK Prime Minister from the United Kingdom, Boris Johnson, held talks with President Biden at the White House. So I thought it'd be a good idea to catch up with some US-UK politics with our regular contributor on the show to see what life is like after the Trump and Brexit era. Christian Hanley, welcome to the Dave Palmer Show again.
Having me. I'm not sure how many times I've been on now, but I think I've been a regular for a couple of years now. I believe.
You are. I'm going to have to give you a cut out of the very small deals I'm making, sponsorships and commercials and that. So, whatever. If you want a beer or something, I think I might be able to make that.
Yes, once I get on an airplane with the mask and the shield and everything, make my first transatlantic flight since the pandemic.
You might be in the red in the bank account, but never mind. We can catch up with all that. We'll catch up with all that because obviously COVID is really now the main topic, whereas before it was what we mentioned just now on the intro, Brexit and Trump was kind of, the big issue, which has died down now. But let's start off with Boris Johnson. He came over and we'll start off with what his agenda was, which is really the trade. That's what he's really doing because of Brexit's gone. And he held talks with President Biden up at the White House, but the American administration played down chances of brokering any kind of, separate post-Brexit free trade deal with the UK. What do you think the prospects are for a UK-US trade?
Yeah, I think that they're good. And of course I'm not on the inside there, but if I had to kind of give my gut opinion here, sort of what I'm thinking is most likely is that it's just not the most urgent priority for the current administration. I mean, the domestic agenda is just, it's daunting. I don't think it's anything more than that. I think that it's just, you've seen the U.S. news in the past week alone. I mean, we had everything from these COVID spikes, the Delta variant, and then of course we've got the images of border agents on horseback, cowboy style, using their reins to whip mostly black migrants coming across the Rio Grande. Oh yeah, that's bad. A group of Haitians, mostly Haitians, not all. But Afro-Caribbean people were on shore there, in northern Mexico and trying to cross the river into the U.S. And these images came out. And so right now, you've got, Afghanistan, the Delta variant, the migration crisis from Central America and the Caribbean up to the U.S. Yeah. I think that's kind of the administration's focus right now. And unfortunately,
I did actually see something about that actually. Yeah. So it seems that those two were the agendas that was where Trump left off. I mean, I'm sorry for saying that 5-letter swear word, but no, I mean obviously that's more or less what the agenda was there. And then it was COVID and the immigration still. Yeah. And obviously the Black Lives Matter movement was very strong at the time as well. But
absolutely. And our immigration system has been a mess across several administrations. That's nothing new, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, we'll catch up with all that, what's going on in the US, and I'll give my take on the UK, where we're at with all that as well, because we have similar kind of issues as well.
I know in terms of the trade issue, though, I think, that was always sort of the big gamble, right? I mean, going back 5 or 6 years was London hoping they could pivot towards New York and Washington while burning the bridge with, Berlin and Paris. Yeah, and exactly. I like everything that came up in the Brexit campaign, everything was oversimplified. It's not that easy to just, exit one economic area and then establish free trade in another. That's just, they made it seem like it could be done with the swoop of a pen, and that's just not possible.
Yeah. I mean, given the complexity, but what it is that, Boris obviously did say that, when sort of a year afterwards, 2017, saying, we're going to be first in line, stuff like that. But now he's saying, maybe not. One of the things that came up was the Northern Ireland Protocol.
Yes.
So that is really a sticking point. That's always been a problem when they started, talks with the EU.
Absolutely.
And I think that seems to be still ongoing as far as Biden and the American administration is concerned. As you know, they're concerned about this closed border. If it's going to be a closed border in Ireland, do you think that's something?
Yeah. Well, up until peace finally came to the border in Northern Ireland, that was always a very touchy subject on this side of the pond, because on the one hand, you have the UK as the US's primary military ally and in a lot of ways ideological ally. But then the United States has such massive Irish Catholic populations and voter blocks. So for any president, on the one hand, you have your friend in the UK, but then you also have your voters who are, I mean, to the extent that there are, millions of Americans of English descent, they're mixed in and have been here for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. Yeah, there's still very much Irish Catholic voting blocks, especially in the major cities. Not in the same solid blocks they used to be, not as uniform as they were in generations past, but it definitely puts a huge political strain, or has in the past, up until the late 1990s for American presidents. And so I could see that definitely being a concern for any U.S. president to not want to return to those days and have to deal with that issue.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's still ongoing. But like you say, it is all the kind of domestic issues that the US has to really sort out first. I mean, how can you forget about your domestic issues and just think, oh yeah, right, let's focus on China and UK? It doesn't work like that, does it? Really?
Well, yeah, and I mean the things that the United States or the president's working on right now, I mean, they're all kind of in the shadow of what happened in Afghanistan, and so we see that an administration whose approval numbers are ticking down because you've got that being sort of the big foreign policy news. And then on the heels of that big story, you've got all these domestic stories, the Delta variant ticking up. You've got the immigration issue, the migration issue. And right now, I mean, there's huge infighting within the Democratic caucus in Congress. So a lot of his domestic agenda, Biden's agenda to push an infrastructure bill and invest heavily in human services and in rebuilding crumbling infrastructure, roads, bridges, railways. That's still stalling. And if they can't deliver on that, that's going to pose a huge problem for re-elections during the midterms.
I did read somewhere, because that was one of Trump's promises as well, about, let's get, his America First was building the roads and the railways and things like that. So it's something that even...
but I mean, that was he was always all bluster. I mean, the reality is the U.S. has built plenty of new highways and bridges in Afghanistan.
Yeah, but not in the U.S.
Well, no, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, we built the largest highway network in the world after World War II, and finished it in a matter of decades, but since the 70s, no one's really done anything substantial to upgrade. Definitely. In the same time, the economy and the population have boomed, and just overcapacity in major metro areas, and the infrastructure in some areas is dangerously out of date.
Yeah. Amazingly, China is not only rapidly developing and building fast their own country. I mean, I mentioned I've been there about 3 times, just before the year before COVID happened, but also in the countries around them, and even in Africa, and I believe in Jamaica even, they're forking out money, and the highways have been developed very quickly, buildings, airports, things like that. So for one, I mean, I'm sure America has the capacity to do that, being the richest economy in the world, surely.
Right. Oh, there's the capacity. It's not that, it's the political willpower. I mean, you can't even compare the two. I mean, yes, I mean, we're the largest economy, and by population, the 3rd largest. But that population between 1, 2, and then 3 is a massive drop of 1 billion workers, 1 billion people. And, you also can't compare. I mean, India is as populous a country as China, but there isn't the same thing. Why democracy is messy. The United States, there's competing ideas and competing priorities. It's very different in China, where you can snap your fingers and force people to do things. The United States, try telling an American what to do.
No, it's true. It's almost like that in the UK, but not as bad. It's almost like that in the UK, because we're about as democratic as the US, but maybe you're a little bit more democratic because you actually split from got your independence from Britain, but it's the same thing. But I think the British people are a little bit more kind of reserved in that kind of way. We do have protests, we do have things, but then eventually when you tell them what to do, they'll have to, they keep in check, I suppose. But I think
you also do things like you do these things like queuing up for a train.
Yes, that's right. You don't do that in
well.
America. Well, actually, I mean, when you say queue up for a train, I mean
you get in line and there's a certain kind of
there isn't
cohesion. Yeah,
that's right. There isn't a thing saying line up here or anything like that. But people, would automatically look around and say, "Oh, sorry, you was before me." That kind of politeness does go on.
Right.
Sometimes it doesn't.
The difference between London and New York there is stark. I mean, in New York, it's the complete opposite.
Yeah, I've been on the subway many times.
Right. That's what I was going to say.
I haven't been for 10 years, but I'm sure. But I've been in the Philippines, and that's 7 of those 10 years, and it's even like that there because it used to be it inherited some of the American policies from where or template of the political system and the way culture and things like that.
Yeah.
They adopted that, so that, I suppose.
But no, I mean, it's funny how the culture translates into the political culture. And here in the U.S. right now, it's difficult to negotiate because on the one hand, you've got Democrats who are a very diverse and very divided party and caucus in Congress who have different ideas about how money should be spent and how much and where. And there's still a strain in American politics, even within the Democratic Party, that thinks that if you spend money on people, you're throwing it away. That somehow investing in people is giving them free TVs, free vacations. And of course, none of that's true, but that's sort of the mentality, right? If you invest in people in your own country, it's basically in the form of giveaways. And really, all the research shows it's quite the opposite. If you invest in people, whether it's educating children or bettering infrastructure so that people can get to work earlier and leave earlier and get their work done and live their lives, economic productivity just shoots up through the roof generation after generation. I mean, there's been no way the U.S. could have whatever we're up to now, it goes up every year, $16 trillion economy. I forget what the last number was, honestly.
Yeah.
But we couldn't do that if our grandparents hadn't decided we're going to pay the taxes now to build the highways and the bridges and the railways. It wouldn't be possible. But there's still this crazy idea that we should pinch pennies, except for when it comes to the military.
That's the big it's a big injection of cash that goes there. So I think it's quite a high percentage, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely,
40% or 50 or something like that. But
yeah. I mean, the way that gets kind of misconstrued is there's the figure that is what percentage of the federal budget is military versus what percentage of gross domestic product is military.
Yeah.
Which, of course, then it looks small because you're comparing it to the entire U.S. private sector, which is enormous. But it is a disproportionately large part of the federal budget. That's true. Yeah.
Okay. Well, looking at what we was discussing, we'll also swap notes because I mean, obviously, we want to catch up with what has been going on since Biden's been in charge. Obviously, coronavirus is a big issue, like you mentioned. There is this stuff happening at the borders where we had a similar thing where migration actually comes from Africa. There's a very small bit of water between Africa and Spain and Gibraltar around that area. It's a very small area of water. It's almost like saying the Niagara Falls or something in a way, probably less than that even.
Yeah, it's tiny.
So we've got this issue where they're coming in boats, and killing themselves almost because UK is an island, so we don't have that issue like you. It's an island as opposed to a border where you can walk across, and there's some of that. You haven't even got a wall there, have you? Well, that people can just walk across the border, can't they? Even from Canada.
I mean, you talk about North American borders. The borders between Canada, the U.S., and Mexico are vast. I mean, there was all that talk in the Trump administration about, we can build a wall and have all this, that, and the other. Look, I mean, that border, you could fit entire countries between the two oceans on either side of that border. And you're talking about if the concern is things like criminal activity, drug cartels, this, that, and the other. Drug enforcement has found things like subway tunnels they've built through the desert to get under the border. Like they built underground trains to bring people and drugs and cash back and forth. They found a privately owned submarine that was going around the border, going in the water, and then coming back up on the other side on the shore. I mean, it's and these people who are proponents of a wall, I don't know if they've heard of these new things called airplanes. But a lot of people can get on them. And the thing with
that's right,
when you're talking about things like visa overstays, that's another common complaint.
Well, that's right. Same here as well in the UK.
Right. People get a visa and then they don't leave when it expires. Okay, well, if someone flew in to LAX or Dulles Airport or whatever it is, and they just don't leave after 6 months or a year or whatever, what is a wall going to do? They're already here. And they're probably, I mean, it's a silly idea. It's more symbolism than anything else. and fortunately, that's not going to go anywhere with the Biden administration. But it's still it's another example of the two different worlds in which Americans live in terms of politics, where you've got Democrats who have different ideas from Republicans and one another, but still more or less know what's going on and live in some sort of semblance of reality, whereas you have a Republican Party that we always kind of joked about and teased, but is now gone completely into conspiracy theories and doing crazy things like, taking horse paste instead of taking the coronavirus vaccine and all this sort of madness.
Yeah. Well, talking about coronavirus, I mean, and then with us, it's coronavirus and Brexit combined, whereas yours, trade is kind of a separate issue to coronavirus is very much domestic, yours, whereas ours is kind of overlapped with the kind of Brexit issue, which is more international politics, if you like, even coming over to you to sort things out. At the moment, people, over the weekend, people have been panic buying again, everything, including for gas, where we call it petrol here.
Right,
Yeah. And there's been no water on the shelves. The reason for that is because of HGV drivers, meaning long distance, heavy duty lorry drivers.
They've been stuck in France, right?
They were stuck in France because of the. I can't remember if it's because of the trade agreement and not allowing them through, or because of the coronavirus. I think it's more the trade agreement because France is now okay.
Trade, yeah.
But it's not only that. We've just got a shortage of drivers mainly. And that's causing now people to panic buy over the weekend. Even water, even I can buy a bottle of water. We don't need to. We can drink the tap water here, but probably same in the States. But sometimes you like to.
Here,
I went in to get some lunch today, and he said, "Oh, well, there's no drivers. We've got no buns here today, and the drivers haven't delivered it." And I have seen that shelves almost empty sometimes. I'm waiting 3-4 days before the delivery is a big issue here. Yeah,
I mean, have you had any private sector leaders speak? I mean, here in the U.S. that happened, of course, last year, and we did have corporate CEOs get on the news and say, "You live in a place where there's food coming. It's on the way. It's being loaded into trucks. The only reason there's no more toilet paper, there's not enough food, is because you're panic buying. If you just wait until tomorrow, it'll be there. Just relax."
That's what they said today. They said today, well, can you stop the panic buying? Not only politicians, but because that's why it's running out.
Right.
Which is quite interesting. Really.
Yeah. They literally said to us, I wasn't panic buying, but they did say to the public, there actually is not a shortage. Stop saying that. Everything is fine. It's just that you've thrown off our schedules because you're panic buying. And I mean, there were people here who were just filling up their vehicles with loads and loads of paper goods, and then you couldn't even find a tissue or, napkins or anything. I mean, it's just absurd.
What the government came on the phone and said, on the radio today is, what I heard on radio is, can you consider that there's more, people really need it, like, the health worker or the carers that need to get to the hospital and they don't want to fill their cars up with petrol. It's running out now because you're depriving, and putting in jeopardy.
Right.
Panic buying is a kind of, I must admit, I almost got into it a little bit myself, and I bought 2 bottles of water because I think, well, the next day is going to run out. But that's not quite the same as filling up your car with, whatnot and toilet paper. Of course, I didn't go to the extreme, but it is a psychological kind of, for me, it was pre-planning. It was like, well, I do need to because, I've got to stay healthy kind of thing. But, it is a kind of thinking of saying that I need that extra one, in reserve here.
Yeah, so, it's that primal instinct of making sure that you've got your food and shelter. For me, it's food. I love having food in and not having to go out for food. But anything else, I confess when there was the hacking. Remember when some cyber group hacked a pipeline company here in the U.S. The pipeline runs from the refineries in Texas up the East Coast up towards Washington D.C.
Okay, I might have. I've probably forgotten about it.
But they hacked it and it went offline for a day or two, and so everyone started panic buying. It wasn't as bad here as in places farther south like North Carolina, but it was pretty bad. I confess for that I did go to the gas station, but otherwise my thought is always, as long as I have food, I can just stay home. And if someone says, well, we didn't, and I'll just say, okay, well, there was that disaster. There's no gas, so I'll just watch Netflix.
what we're saying is that it's pretty normal to say, yeah, I just want to make
Yeah.
sure I've got enough stock and don't starve the next day.
Yeah,
But
right,
you don't
right.
need to go to extremes to say, right, everything's going in a car, including bulging out the window and everything, and you don't really need to do that. Like
Yeah.
the 50 packs of toilet paper at the beginning of the coronavirus pandemic.
I mean, yeah,
there's no
just,
need for that.
yeah. Although I do think, though, on the other side of it, I do think that we are going to have to do a lot of things going forward with the increase in extreme weather and natural disasters with climate
Yeah,
change.
that's
Well,
true, yeah.
the US and UK, like every other place in the world, we're getting more and more of these crazy events. Like, the Eastern US and Western Europe are getting flooding while the Western US is on fire. And there are all these things happening
Yeah.
all year long, much
yeah.
more frequently. And so just, being more prepared in a way that our grandparents would have been, we kind of are used to not worrying about it. Oh, I'll get it tomorrow with my microchipped card and it'll just go through and I'll get whatever I need and whatever. My grandparents would always do things like have reserves, keep things in the cellar just in case. And it wasn't panicking. It was just kind of part of the lifestyle. You had extra things just lying around just in case. I think we're going to have to be more prepared going forward because there are going to be more times where we have things like interruptions to the electrical grid or shortages.
There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, it's advised, and I mean, again, I'll go back to the Philippines, but any country or even your country where you have earthquakes and things like that,
Right.
you've got to have an emergency pack bag for everything, including spare food, because you could be trapped or something for 3 days, have some spare water. So that's a survival thing, really, isn't it?
Yeah. I think more out west they do that. I'm from the East Coast, so
Okay, not in East, you don't have earthquakes there.
Yeah,
But you did have a storm. You did have a hurricane.
Yeah, well, that's true. Aside from hurricanes, though, our weather's a lot more like yours than it is like out
Yeah,
west.
that's right.
But
It is. Yeah, no, it is absolutely. But
it
yeah,
rains.
yeah.
It rains a lot. We get that.
Yeah. I suppose you've made a point there because why would you want to? But I'm just saying with the panic buying situation, to a certain point, you can see you're doing it for survival, but getting carried away with it and making it so that it's at the detriment of someone else isn't really on, because that was going on, at the beginning of the pandemic, and hospital staff and elderly people weren't getting their food because they couldn't get there on time. So here in the UK, they made certain times when certain people could shop, so that
they did something similar here as well. Especially it was more for, they would do early mornings were for elders so that they would have less risk of interaction with infected people, fewer people in the stores, elderly only. They did that before the vaccine, they were doing that so that they could get in and out and not be in harm's way. Nothing based on occupation, or nothing based on profession, but certainly based on age group.
Yeah. We're talking about vaccines. Yeah, talking about vaccines and also traveling, because now I know that there's no travel ban, I understand, between UK and US as well. So that's another good thing. And it's more to allow the tourism and everything else, the economy, to get kicking. And it's the same with the European Union. They've kind of not been relaxed with the UK as well, and vice versa, I think. So what's going on with the US with vaccines? I mean, obviously, there's still a lot of naysayers around me where I am,
Yeah, we have far too many here. We have a lot of people who are, they go down these YouTube and Facebook rabbit holes.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's, that's kind of a cliche. It's not just those networks. I mean, it's blogs, it's people kind of in their own echo chambers, just talking to one another, reinforcing their own beliefs that are not correct. But I would say that the proof is there. In the U.S., everything that is mapped out, any data that we map is always mapped across the 50 states. And so you see pretty clearly the states where there are great successful vaccine campaigns and where the citizens actually listened and got vaccinated. The numbers are far, far lower than in states where people were more hesitant or did not get vaccinated at all.
Yeah.
So you see places like, Maryland, New York, California doing better and better, and then places especially in the South just floundering. And I think one thing that's very frustrating for a lot of us is people having this mentality, which there's always this mentality in the West and especially in the US of, well, as long as I'm okay, then it doesn't matter, right? If I'm okay, then to hell with everyone else. Well, the problem is vaccines, half their job is keeping you safe. The other half is keeping everyone else safe by giving viruses no quarter. If you are leaving a whole bunch of people unvaccinated, their bodies become breeding grounds for viruses that can then mutate and cause new variants that then can go into the population again and even harm people who are vaccinated. And so those of us who've had the vaccines and who have really done everything from day one to do our best with hygiene and masks and now vaccines, we're very frustrated because we want to live our lives and not have to do things like, raise our children to be terrified hypochondriacs and wearing masks everywhere and having to always be, just on high alert all day, every day about this virus, and feel now that if other people sort of did their civic duty, we wouldn't be in this mess.
Yeah. Well, I think that's just the political, on the ground, the politics of the people, the way it is. And I've been around them, you probably certainly have. And I don't think it's a political party thing, although there are probably more Republicans, you can see that are saying, "Oh, I don't want to wear a face mask," blah, blah, blah. Then there was...
Sure, there's more, but it's not strictly along ideological.
It's more of a personal thing, isn't it? It's a personal choice, because even health workers and people in the health industry there's a percentage that some have been threatened to say, "Well, okay, you can't work for us anymore," but really they're even saying, "Well, it's my right whether I want to take this vaccine or not."
And it is, but then there was I saw on Facebook the other day a doctor acquaintance posted a post from it was a judicial opinion.
Yeah.
Someone had sued that they were fired because they refused to get vaccinated and said it was their personal choice. And the judge basically said, yes, it is your personal choice. And it is your freedom to not get vaccinated. It's also your freedom to choose a different place of employment.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
You don't have the right to the job you are currently at. I mean, that's just, jobs come and go. You don't have the right to it.
Well, I know I had to have the Hep B vaccination as soon as I started as a firefighter. They said, "Look, you're going to be exposed to a certain amount of X, Y, and Z." So I had to have it. Yeah, I had to have it. So it's probably they're saying it in the same context, aren't they? Really, it's like, well, you know what?
Yeah,
we've got to protect the people who are working and patients here.
Yeah,
every day, so.
No, that's true. And I mean, and sort of the crazy thing is people are making these bad faith arguments that, well, this is, not like the other vaccines. This is developed quickly and all these excuses. But the reality is the vaccine's safe. It's been tested. It's been proven. And we're seeing now, people who are just they're moving the argument goalposts the more time goes on. So, vaccines are shown to work. They make the argument, well, until the Food and Drug Administration approves it, we're not going to take it. Well, then they approve at least the Pfizer vaccine. Oh, well, there's always this new excuse as to why they won't go through with it. But, in the U.S., and I'm sure in the U.K., it's pretty much everywhere, you can't send your children to school with no vaccines and let the measles make a comeback or make smallpox make a comeback. I mean, you can't do that. Why now are we making this exception, or why are we even entertaining these discussions about why this should be some sort of exception to the rule?
Yeah, certainly that is the thinking that's slowing it down, really. We've had about, I think, 80% that's, I think, double jabbed, or maybe...
Oh, really?
Certainly one jab, and then it's very close to the double jab as well.
Yeah, okay.
So, I mean, it's people are cooperating.
That's good.
Yeah, I think that, but the thing is, well, I suppose really we're separating our states. So England doing their own thing, Wales and Scotland are doing their own thing, and Northern Ireland, so it, it's the same context of your states are doing different things, aren't they?
Right. Yeah, certainly. But yes and no. I mean, the websites, the portals, the mass vaccination sites, those are all set up at the state level. But then, of course, the distribution across the country, at least in the early days, was the private sector working with the federal government to get those out.
Oh, right. Okay. So it wasn't on a federal level then, your one?
No, I mean, so it was kind of like the feds pushed it out across the country, and then within the states, the state governments had to actually handle the distribution at the granular level. So, for example, doing things like when you drive near me here outside of Washington, D.C., going into Maryland, you've got electronic signs on the highway saying, mass vaccination site, appear the next town, buy this, shopping area, go to whatever.gov to sign up. And I have to tell you, I was impressed. I mean, this goes to your earlier point, Dave, about if America actually wants to do something, we can just do it. I mean, when we wanted to do this, around here, Annapolis is where the U.S. Naval Academy is, and there's the big stadium there for football and everything. And they set up a mass vaccination site there. Huge, brand new.
They were using
clean,
stadiums.
Yeah, just they did a pop up right there.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. All I had to do was I put my name in on the website and said whenever I'm called up, because I'm under 60, whatever, I don't have pre-existing conditions. I was general population bottom of the list, and I waited in turn. I was not going to make an excuse to get ahead of someone's grandmother, right? But you sign up, you give them your cell phone number. They text me when I'm up. I get a text. I say, okay, great. When? And they text me back, can you come in next week? Hit Y to confirm for yes. Hit Y. Okay. I go in, show a QR code. Boom. Are you feeling, nauseous, high fever, whatever? No. Jab. Yeah. Wait 15 minutes. Go home.
Yeah.
Easiest thing in the world. I mean, I've had more frustrating experiences getting a sandwich in this country than getting the vaccine.
Well, that's what I say about with the panic buying. There's more frustration around there now than the actual vaccine. I don't know why people can't see it coming, but it's going to cause problems long term with how you're going to be able to the new normal, how you're going to be able to enjoy a football match, how you're going to be able to go and party, how or socialize.
Yeah,
they're going to use all that eventually, and I think you're in the East Coast in the UK, going to have similar weather conditions where people are going to start being indoors from now.
Indoors, right? Exactly,
and that's when it's going to when the few sneezes that's containing the coronavirus will lift the figures up a bit, and that's when they'll start to say, we don't want hospitals overflooded, so COVID vaccine passports, which is now been enforced in Wales, Scotland, but not England, because they said, your human rights, but they're still saying it's not off the table yet. We might consider it later down the road.
Well, that's what France is doing now with the QR codes.
Exactly, that's what's going to go on,
right? And just sorry, I keep knocking my camera here, but having the QR code, making sure if you go to a cafe or something that you're not.
That's that kind of thing. And then any private business will have their own thing. It's like, well, we've got to balance out first whether we're going to lose customers. But I think eventually they're going to.
Well, we've had some private businesses here do that, where they don't want to get into the fights anymore, and they simply say, if you come to the front door, and they'll have the same way they would have an employee there checking IDs for underage drinkers. They'll check your
QR,
because we don't have a QR code that I know of, but I've got it's somewhere here at my desk. I've got the Centers for Disease Control, the CDC. I have a card that shows the 2 vaccine dates and the manufacturer and the dose and all that. And so they'll ask there, and again, this is not a government mandate. This is businesses, business owners, someone who owns a pub or a bar who just does not want to get into it, does not want to fight, just says, bring ID and your card, match your name up, and then you're free to come in. But and unfortunately, it puts the burden on employees who don't want to get in fights with people who are being belligerent.
Well, that's it. Yeah, there is that kind of thing. But I think the law and the procedure is going to be shaped out throughout the whole of this winter period. Well, it's autumn now, but you call it fall, we call it autumn. Right. From now on, it's going to really shape out. Probably after Christmas, you're going to really hear the compulsory things, and it probably will be QR codes and a vaccine passport, especially for travelling, because that is really suffering at the moment still, isn't it? I thought.
Oh yeah.
Things will be resolved a bit, but. They obviously want to start accepting more. It's good for the economy and whatever to have freedom of movement of people.
Right.
So they've got to look at that as well. And
well, I don't know if you've seen, but already there are 2 states in the U.S. I mean, fortunately, they're very rural, very sparsely populated states, but 2 have already put all the hospitals in the state on, what do they call it, emergency procedures.
Right.
So essentially, if you were at a hospital in normal times, if you were the sicker person, you'd be the bigger priority, right? Yeah. Well, now what they're doing is if someone has a lower chance of survival, they'll just keep them comfortable. And if they live, great, but they'll expect them to die because they're so overwhelmed with COVID patients just taking up the beds that they have to actually tend to healthier people first because they have a higher chance of survival, and then leave other people without care. I mean, that's how serious it is. It's grim. It's very much wartime footing.
Yeah.
They're just triaging people in like battlefield style triage.
Well, that's it. Yeah. And as I say, that spike might come again around Christmas, give or take, whether it's before or after, but it'll be.
Well, right. I mean, you live in the UK. It's and the east coast of the US, at least the northern part, we have the same thing. We always this time of year comes, children return to school, temperatures drop, people huddle indoors again, and influenza, common cold, all of those things pop back up.
Yeah. By the time it's Christmas, everyone's visiting everyone,
Yeah, right,
including their grandmothers and everything, and it's all going to be, a risk because of that, and that's what they're going to look at. Really, the numbers might go up. Well, the death numbers might go up. Let's hope
I
not.
think they will.
Yeah, because of the extra socialization after going in school and sneezing a lot. By then, there'd probably be a good amount of flus and colds going around, and
then, like you said, people going into different areas, traveling. Yeah.
But people are forgetting that you can actually carry this COVID around without even knowing you got it. So that's the thing. Well, I don't even know if I caught it in the time I've been back to the UK. Because of they stopped the lockdown and everything was back to normal in 17th of July. So I don't know what I've touched in the shop or who I've gone past that may have had it. And officially you're supposed to have 10 days quarantine, but it's self-isolating.
Right. But I mean, if you've had the vaccine and you have no symptoms and you feel no need to get tested because you have no symptoms and you've had the vaccine, then how would you know if you were a carrier? You'd have no idea.
Well, exactly. Because even with the vaccine, that's what they're saying now, which they didn't know at first. So, when they was trying to get the vaccine out, they said, don't worry, the vaccine's coming and that's it at the end. And it's not quite like that, is it? So
yeah, well, I mean, that actually happened to a comedian and TV host here in the US where they were just doing the routine test for the whole staff at the studio.
Yeah.
And they canceled the show for the next week or two because he tested positive. And he came back on the air and everybody's applauding. Yeah, you recovered. He's like, no, that literally nothing happened. I was vaccinated. They did a test for everyone. Mine came up positive. We had to just cancel and everyone stay home. But literally had nothing. No symptoms whatsoever. Nothing.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Well, I just hope that people, it's the testing is the key. If they can get tests at a low cost everywhere and that people can have access to, that will be the key. To it.
Well, what I understand is what they're doing in France. From what I understand, I'm a fan of that.
Yeah.
Which is, if you've got the free vaccine, here's your QR code, go about your life. If you're refusing, fine, you can keep on getting tests. But after this date, the state's not paying for it anymore. That's on you. Because everything we've done here in the U.S. has been, even for a country that has a very mixed, hybrid, decentralized, partially public, partially private system of healthcare like we have here. This has all been, administered and paid for publicly.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So I paid nothing. I mean, I pay my taxes, but I didn't have to pay anything out of pocket. You know what I mean? To go and get the shot and just So,
but normally you would. That's the thing, you see.
Right. Normally you have an insurance that you pay a monthly premium on, and I would have to pay that plus maybe a co-payment of maybe $25 to go for a visit and do all that. Here, it was just taken care of. You just drive through and do it, which was great. But I kind of agree with Macron that you can't keep doing that and just not being, on the one hand, you don't want to be part of the system and be part of the collective body doing its duty. But on the other hand, you want to be, you want it paid for your exception to go and get your tests rather than just get the shot and move on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We'll watch this space for the next time we talk, which hopefully will be either just before or after Christmas as well, so we could, or both. But so we caught up with a few of the issues that's going on since Biden. So we spoke about trade, the border control with the migrants, and COVID, as we're just now speaking, and also there was the protests going on, and also the Trump. Entourage having that little thing at the White House as well.
Oh God!
So that's where it was last left off before Biden took on. Yeah. How's the policies changed in terms of those protests that was going on? I mean, I heard before we talk about Black Lives Matter where we're at with that, but I heard that or some people talking about wanting Trump to get re-elected again. So,
I mean, it's crazy right now. I'm listening to the audiobook of Bob Woodward and Robert Costa's new book, Peril, about the last days of the Trump administration. And it's scarier than I would have thought. I mean, you feel as though you saw it all on TV and you saw most of it, but you didn't hear the behind doors conversations that were going on, and just how much worse it almost was, and just how much this madman had to be talked down. and pulled back from the brink.
Yeah,
it's a terrifying read. It truly is. Fortunately, when they planned that big follow-up rally to the January 6th insurrection, I think something like they asked for a permit for 700 people. So in Washington, D.C., they're very liberal with people being liberal, conservative, whatever.
Yeah.
Religious, it doesn't matter. They're very liberal with you coming to have the public space in the Capitol to have your demonstration on the National Mall, that big green area. You just do permitting so that you don't have 12 events on one day, things like that. It's more of a planning issue, right? So they got a permit for 700 guests, and they think maybe not even 200 showed up.
Well, it's a bit like his Trump's inauguration,
right?
Very roomy.
Right.
I think it was John Legend said it's very roomy in here, and he's not someone for really making out, any kind of he's a bit more kind of polite with comments there. I think we know what he meant when he says very roomy in here.
Yes, exactly. It's spacious.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's kind of the that's kind of the thesis of this book, though. That everyone in the U.S. is reading right now, is the fact that this is everybody who's into politics, I should say, is reading that this peril is not gone yet, right? That Trump is not in office right now, but we can't be complacent.
Yeah, he's still got his kind of
we still Yeah, you
still will have those followers anyway, and it's politics and the democracy for you, So
yeah, right, exactly. It's still just part of what happens, and having election cycles, and now that following has been crystallized, now that it's still there. Whether it's Trump, in 2016 or Trump in 2024, it's kind of irrelevant. Or if it's somebody else altogether. I mean, the bigger concern I have is not so much Donald Trump personally. It's the fact that he showed the roadmap for sort of a quasi-fascist with this guy with authoritarian tendencies being able to come to power on this side of the Atlantic, which was always thought not possible in the United States. And the next one to pull it off will likely be far less bombastic, far less vulgar, much more persuasive, much more cunning, and therefore far more dangerous.
Yeah,
that would be my concern. Whatever he's woken up in that part of the electorate hasn't gone away, has not gone to ground, and that's something we're going to have to be vigilant about.
We're looking at about just over another year before the primaries start going again, and you'd have to obviously do those as well, So we will soon know whether he's going to try and make a comeback that way. But then he has to get through that whole primary.
I would think so. I would think so, and that's really why I want Congress to deliver on the Biden agenda, because if people are feeling good because their government has helped them and is making life better for them, then they are more inclined to keep that government, that Congress, makeup of Congress going. And if they are not content because they did not deliver, then we know what happens, because it happened in 2016.
Yeah. So before we go, so how is everything going with the obviously the Black Lives Matter protests happened just before Trump? Hopefully that was one of the things that also got him out as well. But it's not only that, but. How were the policies and that shaping with Biden there? Because obviously he sent out a strong message to make sure.
Yeah, he did. It's not coming along fast enough.
Okay,
we're living in an era of a lot of performative politics and a lot of gestures, but in terms of concrete reforms like federal guidelines on police training and police brutality. Ending what's called qualified immunity, that more or less, it virtually blocks you from being able to sue a police officer in a court of law. It makes it damn near impossible. Those things are still not. Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay.
I mean, because
I even in the UK, where people see with their eyes in front of them some things that are wrong what the police have done. Sometimes you do need the police. I'm not anti-police in that sense.
No,
because
of course.
I'm all for security But when they do the wrong things, that's an issue, because they don't deal with it properly, don't deal with the complaints properly. There was actually a politician that wanted our commissioner, as a woman actually, out because she didn't deal with certain things properly, and she's still staying in. She got her contract renewed, for 2 years. So it's a different thing, when you're inside these organizations.
Well, that's the thing. Those organizations they're an insular club. And
that's what it is. Yeah.
Typically they stick together. So we did see in Minnesota, Derek Chauvin's fellow officers, testify against him in court on his trial. But we did not. We're still waiting on that federal legislation. So
Oh well, we'll have to watch this space for next time, Christian.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure as always.
Great to catch up. I mean, I'm only using my politics degree, but you're actually out there using it in your credentials in anger. So you've got the practical experience, whereas I'm just commentating with you here. So I'll have to still try and have a little...
I enjoy the commentary as well. So
yeah. Well, I'll try and see if I can get on your podcast. What's the name of your podcast again?
Yeah, so it's Keep It in Perspective, and the website is letskeepitinperspective.com. Actually, I'm going to run into a recording for that podcast in a few moments.
Right.
I'm going to be interviewing a representative from the Texas state legislature about what has gone on in Texas with Senate Bill 8, which is this new crazy draconian anti-abortion law.
I heard about that.
It literally deputizes private citizens, makes abortion a civil matter, where ordinary citizens can sue a woman for suspecting that she was trying to have an abortion, including anyone who might have helped her, like an Uber driver giving her a ride somewhere. It's absolutely it is the Wild West, quite literally. We'll be speaking with her later today. Episode should be out on Thursday. You're not going to want to miss that. I'm
going to have to try and tune into that as well, because that is crazy. That is like
absolutely crazy.
I mean, that's almost like you could just make up something, and just that slightest thing, like an Uber driver would not have wanted to take her there, but all of a sudden it's just because of that.
There are so many questions like that where we're all wondering outside of Texas, okay, how would this actually work in practice? And so I'm hoping to, I mean, this is obviously someone who's opposed to this, but I'm hoping to have some of those questions answered today.
Well, I'll look out for that as well. So on that note, I better get you ready for that show, and be good to have you back in the next couple of months or so, and we'll catch up with what's going on UK, US wise, and around the world as well. If some issue happens around the world that's relevant. Be good to catch up with all that. Well, excellent. Well, Christian, in the meantime, we'll speak to you again, and thanks for coming on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Dave. I appreciate it.
That's all for this episode. Thanks for listening, and remember, if you want to support what we do, then share, subscribe, and leave a review over on Apple Podcasts, or head over to my website, davepalmer.com, and click on Rate Show. Well, that's all for now, but I'll see you in the next episode of The Dave Palmer Show.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.